Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech. Today, we're diving headfirst into the new arms race for your phone. We're going to look at everything from some seriously creative malware to a massive intelligence leak that's shaking things up, and then we'll uncover a huge shift in how our phones are being defended. Let's get right into it.
Okay, first up, we've got something that sounds like it's pulled straight from a sci-fi novel. There's a new worm wiggling its way through the software world. But before we get into what this thing is, we need to understand the battlefield.
And that battlefield is what we call a software supply chain attack. You know, instead of trying to break down the front door of a huge company, hackers get sneaky. They go after the smaller, less secure tools and code libraries that tons of other programs depend on. It's like poisoning the well instead of attacking the castle. Super effective.
Which brings us to this critter. It's called the Shai-Hulud worm. And yeah, all you Dune fans, and probably saying that wrong. It was found crawling through the NPM software ecosystem, and it hit over 150 different packages. But here's what's kind of funny. Its goal was to steal cryptocurrency, but the hackers only walked away with less than $1,000, and it looks like it's the same crew that was behind another attack back in August.
So how does this thing actually work? Well, it's a pretty classic three-step move. First, it scans a developer's machine looking for any login credentials it can find. Then it steals that data, shipping it off by creating new repositories on GitHub. And finally, this is the really dangerous part, it propagates. It uses those stolen credentials to publish infected versions of other software, spreading itself like a virus.
So you might be thinking, okay, but it only stole less than $1,000. Who cares? Well, you should care because of this number. 2.6 billion. That's how many times just one of the affected software packages gets downloaded every single week. The potential for damage here is just astronomical. It really shows you how fragile these software supply chains can be.
Okay, so that vulnerability is one kind of threat. But what about when the threat isn't just a piece of code, but the entire digital censorship apparatus of a global superpower? Well, that brings us to our next story. A truly massive leak that has cracked open the inner workings of China's Great Firewall.
And when I say massive, I mean it. We're talking about 600 gigabytes of data. That's not just a crack in the wall. That's a floodgate opening up. An absolutely enormous trove of super sensitive information just posted online for the world to see.
And hey, don't just take my word for how big a deal this is. Researchers are calling it one of the most informative intelligence dumps on this topic ever. This isn't just a little peek behind the curtain. It's like someone dropped the complete blueprints for the entire machine right on the internet.
The scope of what was leaked is just mind-boggling. I mean, we're talking about everything. The internal source code, top secret documents, even private chats between the people who run the thing. It's the whole shebang, right down to the names of the groups that keep the firewall running. And maybe the most unsettling discovery from all this data is this. This technology isn't just staying in China. Researchers digging through the files have confirmed that these exact same tools for digital control are being exported and used by other governments around the world. All right, let's pivot now from these huge global threats and bring it right down to the device that's probably in your hand right now. Let's talk about Android, because there's been a very quiet but very important change in how your phone is being protected. So, let me just ask you, if you're an Android user, have you had that feeling that you're getting fewer security updates lately? That those little notifications aren't popping up as often? Well, if you have, you're not going crazy. Something has definitely changed. Just take a look at this chart. This shows the number of security bugs Google told the public about over 3 months. In July, just 6. In August, a big, fat 0. And then, bam, in September, it spikes to 119. Now, that's not random. That's a pattern, and it points to a deliberate change in strategy.
So what's the new strategy? Well, it used to be that every month, Google would release a security update that patched all sorts of bugs, big and small. But now they've quietly moved to a risk-based system. That means the monthly updates are only for high or critical threats. Everything else? It gets bundled up and sent out quarterly.
Now, the idea here is supposedly to give phone manufacturers a more predictable and controlled schedule to push out these patches. But what's really interesting is that even though this is clearly happening, Google has officially refused to confirm the change when reporters have asked them about it.
Now, as a fascinating contrast to what's happening in the Android world, let's look across the aisle at Apple, because they're doing something completely different. They're trying to build what some are calling an unhackable digital fortress for the iPhone.
To really get what Apple's done, you have to understand a concept called memory tagging,
And honestly, the analogy here on the slide is perfect. Think of every little bit of your phone's memory as a lock with a specific key. If any program tries to use the wrong key on the wrong lock, which is a classic hacking move, the system just slams the door shut on it instantly. So Apple took this idea and basically put it on steroids. They call their version Memory Integrity Enforcement, or MIE. They built it with the chip designer ARM, and it wasn't just some theoretical project. No, this was specifically engineered to stop the exact kinds of complex, multi-stage attacks that hackers have actually used to break into iPhones.
But here is the really clever part. The original memory tagging tech had a known weakness. There were certain types of memory that it didn't check. So Apple worked directly with ARM to close that loophole, making it way harder for an attacker to find a way around the protections.
And this right here, this slide tells the whole story. It's the knockout punch. Google does have memory tagging, but it's only on a few high-end phones, and developers have to choose to turn it on. It's opt-in. Apple? They put their enhanced version on all new iPhones, and it is on by default for everybody. It's not just a feature, it's the new baseline for security.
The reaction from the security community has just been wild. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. The most hack-proof technology on the planet. We're looking at a level of hardware and software security that is it's completely unprecedented in a device that you and I can just go out and buy.
So it's pretty clear Apple has thrown down the gauntlet and raised the bar for everyone. But that leaves us with one final big question. In this constant, never-ending cat-and-mouse game of hacking, where the bad guys are just as innovative as the good guys, can anything at all, truly be called unhackable? It's definitely some food for thought. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.